In today's video, I wanted to do a quick case study on someone that I think is probably the most fascinating character in literary history. Definitely one of my personal favorites. The Greek goddess Persephone. Persephone is a character that appears kind of frequently in popular culture. And if not Persephone, definitely the archetype that she embodies appears quite frequently. You can liken her to the maiden, to the ingenue, the rebel, the good girl gone bad. That is the archetype or the embodiment of Persephone. The reason that I want to do this video is because I've been thinking a lot about light and dark feminine, and I think Persephone's story does a really good job at displaying what it means to embody your light and your dark feminine energy. And I think by the end of the story, you'll agree with me. Persephone is the goddess of spring. In Greek mythology, when the crops are growing, it's thanks to Persephone. The flowers blooming and the trees blossoming, we have her to thank for that. She's also the daughter of Zeus and Demeter. Demeter is her mother and Zeus is her father. So one day, Persephone and her friend, Cyane, I think, they were in a garden exploring, and they stumbled across a narcissus flower. And this narcissus flower was so beautiful, they just began to stare at it. As they were staring at this flower, the ground began to tremble, the earth split, and up pops a shadowy, horrifying figure known as Hades, the god of the underworld, which you probably have heard of him. And so he snatches Persephone and takes her down to the underworld, and the earth swallows them. And he takes her down to his lair. And so Cyane, her friend, is crying for help, so much so that she actually dissolves and becomes part of the sea. And Demeter, Persephone's mother, comes looking for her, and to no avail. And she goes into this deep depression, and she goes on this entire adventure just trying to find her daughter. So while underground, Persephone is forced to be Hades' wife and to perform wifely duties to him, if you know what I mean. And essentially, she's forced to reign as his queen of the damned. And so she becomes queen of death and queen of the underworld. And what's tragic about this is not only the fact that Persephone, this young, bright, naive, innocent girl, was kidnapped. The real betrayal is the fact that upon, as we get farther into the story, we realize it was Persephone's own father, Zeus. Yeah, that guy. He's the one who had arranged the entire kidnapping and marriage. He had secretly given Persephone's hand in marriage to Hades. And so he arranged the entire kidnapping on his own. Persephone was forced to sit with this betrayal, and she was forced to sit with this, tragedy that has happened to her. She went to a dark place, and in that dark place, she became very rebellious. She refused to eat. She refused to give in to even her own hunger. She was very rebellious. But she started to realize that, Hades needed her in a way, and she started to realize her value. And so while she was in the underground, the crops weren't growing, like everything was dying out. The leaves were falling off the trees, the crops were dying, nothing was blossoming. Lo and behold, Persephone grew very hungry, and she decided to eat a piece of low-hanging fruit while she was in the underground. And that fruit was the pomegranate, which is why now we associate the pomegranate with seduction and temptation, and dark feminine energy. So she eats a piece of the pomegranate, and when she eats the pomegranate, it creates a soul tie. So she becomes soul tied to the underground and soul tied to Hades. And so it's actually Persephone that the Greeks attributed to the changing of the seasons. So their idea is that the 6 months that things are growing and blooming, spring and summer, it's because Persephone is on Earth. And in the wintertime, she submerges underground and everything stops growing because she is ruling the underworld. Persephone becomes the ruler of the spring and summer, and also the queen of death and the underworld. So you can see kind of that parallel between the light and the dark feminine. So what we learn from that is that she has mastered her divine feminine energy, because she has mastered her light feminine when she's goddess of the spring and agriculture and all things growing. And she's also the goddess of the underworld. So we see she has, in order to be a goddess or a queen in both realms, she has had to master her light and dark feminine. That is something that I think is such a parallel in a lot of our lives, is in order to really be in your divine feminine energy, you need to master your light feminine energy and your dark feminine energy in the way that Persephone did. So Persephone was in her light feminine energy when she's, dwelling in the springtime. When she's the goddess of spring, that's her in her light feminine energy. Things are growing. She's generous. Feminine energy is very gifting and generous and nurturing. So when she's using her godly gifts to provide fruits and crops and agriculture to the world, when she's helping the plants thrive and she's helping things blossom, that is her in her light feminine energy. Her being in her light energy was her being naive and excited and curious and wandering into the garden and being fascinated by creation. She was in her dark feminine energy when she became rebellious and when she became daring, and she dared to stand up and rebel against Hades. And she was in her dark feminine energy when she negotiated with him, and she negotiated that, hey, look, I know that I have a soul tie to you. I know that there was a contract put in place without my doing, but you know that you need me here, because she saw her worth. She saw that Hades needed her more than she needed him. And even though there was a debt to him because of her father, she was still able to negotiate with him her worth, because she knew that he had a need for her. And so it was her being in her dark feminine energy that allowed her to be strategic and set that boundary with him, and also seduce him into getting her way. And so you see the embodiment of someone who has mastered that light feminine and that dark feminine energy when we think of Persephone. So if you are somebody like me, who you are on your divine feminine journey, I really encourage you to look into the story of Persephone. I think she is an incredible character to learn about. If you happen to enjoy studying archetypes, you can liken Persephone to the maiden or the ingenue, the rebel, the good girl gone bad, or the damsel in distress. That is how she appears to us in popular culture. A lot of us meet our Persephone goddess energy when we go through a trauma, when we go through something dark, when we're fired for no reason, or when we go through a bad breakup, or we suffer a betrayal or a death or a rejection of some kind. That is when a lot of us have to go through and find our dark feminine energy. There, you are someone who wants to get in contact with your dark feminine energy. Get in touch with something. Think of something that has happened to you that causes you a little bit of anger, because that is where your dark feminine energy thrives, is a little bit of anger, healthy amount of anger, and knowing your worth. I think that's a really good place to start. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Let me know if you like these kind of like case study videos. I think they're a lot of fun. I think we can learn a lot from the gods. But I hope this video was helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.